中国语文课2年级下册一村居，清高鼎。草长莺飞2月天，拂堤杨柳醉春烟。儿童散学归来早，忙趁东风放纸鸢。二咏柳，唐·贺知章。
Chinese Language Lessons, 2nd Grade Volume 2, 1. Village Life, Qing Dynasty, Gao Ding. The grass grows and the orioles fly in the February sky. The willows brush the embankment and are drunk by the spring smoke. The children came back early from school, and, busy taking advantage of the east wind to fly kites. 2. Yonglu, Tang Dynasty, Hezhizhang.
碧玉妆成一树高，万条垂下绿丝绦。不知细叶谁裁出，2月春风似剪刀。3找春天，春天来了，春天来了。我们几个孩子脱掉棉袄，冲出家门，奔向田野，去寻找春天。
The jasper is as tall as a tree, and thousands of green silk ribbons hang down. I don't know who cuts out the thin leaves. The spring breeze in February is like scissors. 3. Looking for spring. Spring is here. Spring is here. We children took off our cotton-padded jackets, rushed out of the house, and ran to the fields to find spring.
春天像个害羞的小姑娘，遮遮掩掩，躲躲藏藏。我们仔细地找啊找啊，小草从地下探出头来，那是春天的眉毛吧？早开的野花1朵2朵，那是春天的眼睛吧？
Spring is like a shy little girl, covering up and hiding. We looked carefully for woe, woe. The grass pokes its head out from the ground. Are those the eyebrows of spring? There are 1 or 2 early blooming wild flowers. Are they the eyes of spring?
树木吐出点点嫩芽，那是春天的音符吧？解冻的小溪叮叮咚咚，那是春天的琴声吧？春天来了，我们看到了它，我们听到了它，我们闻到了它，我们触到了它。
The trees are sprouting little buds. Is that the note of spring? The thawing creek is tinkling. Is that the sound of spring, right? Spring is here. We see her, we hear her, we smell her, we touch her.
它在柳枝上荡秋千，在风筝尾巴上摇啊摇。它在喜鹊、杜鹃嘴里叫，在桃花、杏花枝头笑。本文作者金少珍。4开满鲜花的小路，邮递员黄狗在门口喊：“鼹鼠先生。”
She swings on the willow branches, sways on the tail of the kite. She calls in the mouths of magpies and cuckoos, and laughs on the branches of peach and apricot blossoms. The author of this article, Jing Shaozhen. 4. A place full of flowers, small road. The postman Huang Dog shouted at the door, Mr. Mole.
您的包裹蛋。原来，长颈鹿大叔给鼹鼠先生寄来了一个包裹。鼹鼠先生赶紧骑着摩托车到邮局去领包裹。他回家后打开包裹，看见一堆小颗粒。
Your package order. It turned out that Uncle Giraffe sent a package to Mr. Mole. Mr. Mole hurriedly rode his motorcycle to the post office to pick up the package. When he got home, he opened the package and saw a bunch of small particles.
可认不出是什么东西。鼹鼠先生拿着包裹来到松鼠太太家，他问松鼠太太：“长颈鹿大叔寄来一个包裹，请您看看是什么东西。”松鼠太太拿过来一看，里面空空的。
Can't recognize what it is. Mr. Mole took the package and came to Mrs. Squirrel's house. He asked Mrs. Squirrel, Uncle Giraffe sent a package, please see what it is? Mrs. Squirrel took it over and looked at it. It was empty.
什么也没有。原来包裹破了，里面的东西不见了，看来都漏在来时的路上了。鼹鼠先生很懊丧。春天来了，鼹鼠先生要去松鼠太太家做客。啊，通往松鼠太太家的路。
Nothing. It turned out that the package was broken and the contents were missing. It seems that everything was missed on the way here. Mr. Mole was very depressed. Spring is here, and Mr. Mole is going to visit Mrs. Squirrel's house. Ah, the road to Mrs. Squirrel's house.
成了一条开满鲜花的小路。鼹鼠先生路过刺猬太太家，正巧刺猬太太走出门，看到门前开着一大片绚丽多彩的鲜花，他惊奇地说：“这是谁在我家门前种的花？”
It became a path full of flowers. Mr. Mole passed by Mrs. Hedgehog's house, and Mrs. Hedgehog happened to walk out the door. Seeing a large field of colorful flowers blooming in front of her door, she said in surprise, "Who planted these flowers in front of my house?"
多美啊！鼹鼠先生回答：“我不知道。”鼹鼠先生经过狐狸太太家，正巧狐狸太太走出门，看到门前开着一大片五颜六色的鲜花，他奇怪地问：“
How beautiful! Mr. Mole replied, "I don't know." Mr. Mole passed by Mrs. Fox's house. By chance, Mrs. Fox walked out of the door. Seeing a large field of colorful flowers blooming in front of the door, she asked strangely,
这是谁在我家门前种的花？真美啊！鼹鼠先生回答：“我不知道。”鼹鼠先生来到松鼠太太门前，松鼠太太走出门，看见门前的小路上花朵簇簇，小松鼠。
Who planted this flower in front of my house? So beautiful. Mr. Mole replied, "I don't know." Mr. Mole came to Mrs. Squirrel's door. Mrs. Squirrel walked out and saw clusters of flowers on the path in front of the door. The little squirrel.
小刺猬和小狐狸在那里快活地蹦啊跳啊。松鼠太太对鼹鼠先生说：“我知道了，去年长颈鹿大叔寄给你的是花籽，这是多么美好的礼物啊！”本文作者林颂英。5.
The little hedgehog and the little fox were jumping happily there. Mrs. Squirrel said to Mr. Mole, "I know, last year Uncle Giraffe sent you flower seeds. What a wonderful gift it is." The author of this article, Lin Songjing, 5.
邓小平爷爷植树，1987年4月5日是个令人难忘的日子。这一天，碧空如洗，万里无云。在北京天坛公园植树的人群里，
Grandpa Deng Xiaoping planted trees. April 5, 1987, was an unforgettable day. On this day, the sky was blue and cloudless. Among the crowd planting trees in Beijing's Temple of Heaven Park.
83岁高龄的邓小平爷爷格外引人注目。只见他手握铁锹，兴致勃勃地挖着树坑，额头已经满是汗珠，仍不肯休息。一个树坑挖好了。
The 83-year-old grandfather Deng Xiaoping is particularly eye-catching. He was seen holding a shovel in his hand and digging a tree pit with great interest. His forehead was already covered with sweat and he still refused to rest. A tree pit has been dug.
邓爷爷精心地挑选了一棵茁壮的柏树苗，小心地移入树坑，又挥锹填了几锹土。他站到几步之外仔细看看，觉得不很直，连声说：“不行，不行。”
Grandpa Deng carefully selected a strong cypress sapling, carefully moved it into the tree pit, and filled it with a few shovels of soil. He stood a few steps away and took a closer look. He felt that it was not straight and kept saying, "No, no."
他又走上前，把树苗扶正。一棵绿油油的小柏树栽好了，就像战士一样笔直地站在那里。邓爷爷的脸上露出了满意的笑容。今天
He stepped forward again and straightened the sapling. A small green cypress tree was planted and stood upright like a warrior. Grandpa Dang had a satisfied smile on his face. Today,
邓小平爷爷亲手栽种的柏树已经长大了，成了天坛公园一处美丽的风景。六雷锋叔叔，你在哪里？沿着长长的小溪寻找雷锋的足迹。雷锋叔叔，你在哪里？
the cypress tree planted by Grandpa Deng Xiaoping has grown up and become a beautiful scenery in the Temple of Heaven Park. 6. Uncle Lei Feng, where are you? Along the long stream, looking for Lei Feng's footprints. Uncle Lei Feng, where are you?
你在哪里？小溪说，昨天他曾路过这里，抱着迷路的孩子，冒着蒙蒙的细雨。瞧，那泥泞路上的脚窝就是他留下的足迹。顺着弯弯的小路寻找雷锋的足迹。雷锋叔叔
Where are you? Xiaoxi said, yesterday, he passed by here, holding the lost child, braving the drizzle. Look, the footwells on the muddy road, are the footprints he left. Follow the winding path, look for Lei Feng's footprints. Uncle Lei Feng.
你在哪里？你在哪里？小鹿说，昨天他曾路过这里，背着年迈的大娘，踏着路上的荆棘。瞧，那花瓣上晶莹的露珠，就是他洒下的汗滴。乘着温暖的春风，我们四处寻觅。
Where are you? Where are you? Xiaolu said, yesterday, he passed by here, carrying his old lady on his back, stepping on the thorns on the road. Look, the crystal dewdrops on the petals, are the drops of sweat he shed. Riding in the warm spring breeze, we looked around.
啊，终于找到了，哪里需要献出爱心，雷锋叔叔就出现在哪里。7点千人糕，一天，爸爸对孩子说：“今天我们来吃千人糕吧。”爸爸，什么是千人糕？孩子好奇地问。
I finally found it, wherever you need to show your love. Uncle Lei Feng will appear there. 7. 1,000-person cake. One day, the father said to the child, "Let's eat 1,000-person cake today." Dad, what is 1,000-person cake? The child asked curiously.
需要很多很多人才能做成的糕。爸爸回答。孩子想，这糕要很多很多人才能做成，一定特别大，也许比桌子还大吧。爸爸端来一块糕。
It takes many, many people to make the cake. The father replied. The child thought, this cake requires many, many people to make. It must be very big, maybe bigger than the table. The father brought a piece of cake.
那糕看上去跟平时吃的糕没有什么两样，难道它的味道很特别吗？孩子急忙尝了尝，笑了。这就是平常吃过的米糕吗？您给我买过？爸爸说，是的。
The cake looks no different from the usual cakes. Does it taste special? The child hurriedly tasted it and smiled. This is the rice cake I usually eat. You bought it for me. The father said, yes.
就是平常吃的米糕。你知道这糕是怎么做成的吗？孩子说， 是把大米磨成粉做的，还加了糖。爸爸说，是啊，大米是农民种的稻子加工出来的。农民种稻子需要种子。
Just the usual rice cakes. Do you know how this cake is made? The child said, It is made by grinding rice into powder and adding sugar. Dad said, Yes, rice is processed from rice grown by farmers. Farmers need seeds to grow rice.
农具、肥料、水，爸爸接着说，糖呢是用甘蔗汁、甜菜汁熬出来的。甘蔗、甜菜也要有人种。熬糖的时候要有工具，还得有火，就算米糕做好了，还得要人包装、送货、销售。
Farm tools, fertilizer, water. Dad continued, Sugar is made from sugar cane juice and beet juice. Sugar cane and sugar beet must also be grown. When making sugar, you need tools and fire. Even if the rice cakes are ready, they still need people to package, deliver, and sell them.
这些又需要很多人的劳动。爸爸拿起面前的糕，说：“你看，一块平平长长的糕，经过很多很多人的劳动，才能摆在我们面前。”孩子听了爸爸的话，仔细想了想，说：“爸爸。”
These require the labor of many people. Dad picked up the cake in front of him and said, You see, an ordinary cake can only be placed in front of us after the labor of many, many people. After hearing what his father said, the child thought about it carefully and said, Dad.
这糕的确应该叫千人糕啊。8.1匹出色的马，一个春天的傍晚，妈妈牵着妹妹，爸爸牵着我，一起到郊外去散步。我们沿着一条小河走，河水碧绿碧绿的。
This cake should indeed be called Thousand People Cake. 8. An outstanding horse. One spring evening, my mother took my sister and my father took me for a walk in the countryside. We walked along a small river. The water was green and green.
微风吹过，泛起层层波纹。河岸上垂下来的柳叶拂过妈妈和爸爸的头发，我和妹妹看着都笑了。路的一边是田野，葱葱绿绿的，非常可爱，像一片柔软的绿毯。
The breeze blew by, causing layers of ripples. The willow leaves hanging down on the river bank brushed the hair of my mother and father, and my sister and I laughed when we looked at it. On one side of the road are fields, lush and green, very lovely, like a soft green blanket.
春天的郊外，景色异常美丽。我们一边看，一边走，路已经走了不少，却还恋恋不舍，不想回去。当我们往回走的时候，妹妹求妈妈抱她，我很累，走不动了，抱抱我。
The scenery in the countryside in spring is extremely beautiful. As we watched and walked, we had already traveled a lot, but we were still reluctant to leave and didn't want to go back. When we walked back, my sister begged her mother to hug her. I'm very tired and can't walk anymore. Hug me.
妈妈摇摇头，回答说：“不行啊，我也很累，抱不动你了。”妹妹转过头求爸爸，爸爸不作声，他松开我的手，从路旁一株柳树下拾起一根又长又细的枝条。
Mom shook her head and replied, No, I'm too tired and can't hold you anymore. My sister turned her head and begged her dad. Dad remained silent. He let go of my hand and picked up a long and thin branch from under a willow tree by the road.
把它递给了妹妹，说：“这是一匹出色的马，你走不动了，就骑着它回家吧。”妹妹高兴地跨上马，蹦蹦跳跳地奔向前去。等我们回到家时， 他已经在门口迎接我们。
He handed it to his sister and said, "This is an excellent horse. If you can't walk anymore, just ride it home." My sister happily got on the horse and jumped to the go. When we got home, she was already at the door to greet us.
笑着说：“我早回来了。”本文作者陈伯吹就传统节日春节到，人欢笑，贴窗花，放鞭炮。元宵节看花灯，大街小巷人如潮。清明节雨纷纷，先人墓前去祭扫。过端午赛龙舟。
Smiling and saying, "I'm back early." The author of this article, Chen Bachui, 9. Traditional festivals. The spring festival is here, people laugh. Put up window grills and set off firecrackers. During the Lantern Festival, watching the lanterns. The streets and alleys are crowded with people. On Qingming Festival, it rained heavily, and I went to pay homage to my ancestors' tombs. Celebrate the Dragon Boat Festival, race dragon boats.
粽子艾香满堂飘。7月7来乞巧，牛郎织女会鹊桥。过中秋吃月饼，15圆月当空照。重阳节要敬老，踏秋赏菊去登高。转眼又是新春到，全家团圆真热闹。10倍。
The aroma of rice dumplings and moxa fills the room. On the 7th day of the 7th lunar month, come and beg for luck. The cowherd and the weaver girl meet on the Magpie Bridge. During the Mid-Autumn Festival, eat moon cakes. The 15th full moon shines in the sky. Double Ninth Festival, we must respect the elderly, go to the heights in autumn to admire the chrysanthemums. In the blink of an eye, the new year is here again. The whole family reunion is so lively. 10.
的故事，一些生活在水里的动物用贝壳保护自己的身体。甲骨文中的贝字画的就是贝类的两扇壳张开的样子。古时候，人们觉得贝壳很漂亮，很珍贵。
The story. Some animals living in the water use shells to protect their bodies. The word shell in the oracle bone inscriptions depicts the two open shells of shellfish. In ancient times, people thought shells were beautiful and precious.
喜欢把它们当作饰品戴在身上，而且贝壳可以随身携带，不容易损坏，于是古人还把贝壳当作钱币。所以用贝做偏旁的字大多与钱财有关，比如赚、赔、购、贫、货。
I like to wear them as accessories. Moreover, shells can be carried around and are not easily damaged, so the ancients also used shells as coins. Therefore, most of the words with "bay" as the radical are related to money, such as earn, lose, buy, be poor, goods.
11. 中国美食凉拌波来、香煎豆腐、红烧茄子、烤鸭、水煮鱼、葱爆羊肉、小鸡炖蘑菇、蒸饺、炸酱面、小米粥、蛋炒饭。12. 彩色的梦。
11. Chinese food, cold spinach, pan-fried tofu, braised eggplant, roast duck, boiled fish, sautéed mutton with green onions, chicken stewed with mushrooms, steamed dumplings, noodles with soybean paste, millet porridge, egg fried rice. 12. Colorful dreams.
我有一大把彩色的梦，有的长，有的圆，有的硬。他们躺在铅笔盒里聊天，一打开就在白纸上跳蹦。脚尖划过的地方，大块的草坪，绿了大朵的野花，红了大片的天空。
I have a lot of colorful dreams. Some are long, some are round, and some are hard. They were lying in the pencil box chatting. As soon as they opened it, they jumped on the white paper. Where your toes slide, large patches of lawn are green, big wildflowers are red, a vast expanse of sky.
蓝了，蓝的透明。在葱郁的森林里，雪松们拉着手，请小鸟留下歌声。小屋的烟囱上结一个苹果般的太阳，又大又红。我的彩色铅笔是大森林的精灵，我的彩色梦境。
It's blue, the blue is so transparent. In the lush forest, the cedars held hands, asked the birds to leave their songs. On the chimney of the hut, there is a sun like an apple. Big and red, my colored pencils, are the spirits of the big forest. My colorful dream.
有水果香，有季节风，还有紫葡萄的叮咛，在溪水里流动。本诗作者高洪波。13. 枫树上的喜鹊。我们村的渡口旁有一棵枫树，我很喜欢它。
There is the fragrance of fruits, there is seasonal wind, and the warning of purple grapes, flowing in the stream. The author of this poem is Gao Hongbo. 1-3. The magpie on the maple tree. There is a maple tree next to the ferry in our village. I like it very much.
它好像一把很大又很高的绿色太阳伞，一直打开着。它的绿荫遮蔽了村里的渡口。枫树上有一个喜鹊的窝，我喜欢极了。是的，我喜欢站在枫树下。
It is like a big and tall green sun umbrella that is always open. Its green shade shades the village ferry. There is a magpie's nest on the maple tree. I like it very much. Yes, I like standing under the maple tree.
抬头看喜鹊的窝。我常常觉得喜鹊会跟我说话，我像童话书里那样，在心中称呼她是我的喜鹊阿姨。我真是喜欢极了。上个星期天早上。
Look up at the magpie's nest. I often feel that the magpie will talk to me, and I call her my Aunt Magpie in my heart, just like in the fairy tale book. I really like it. Last Sunday morning.
我正要撑着渡船到对岸的树林里去打柴，发现喜鹊阿姨的窝里有6只小喜鹊了。我真是像童话书里那样，在心中称呼它们喜鹊弟弟。从那天起，我一有空，
I was about to hold the ferry to collect firewood in the woods on the other side when I found 6 little magpies in Auntie Magpie's nest. I really called them Magpie brothers in my heart, just like in the fairy tale book. From that day on, whenever I had free time,
便来到渡口边，站在枫树下看望我的喜鹊弟弟。喜鹊弟弟长得真快，好极了。我看见喜鹊阿姨站在窝边，一会儿教喜鹊弟弟唱歌，一会儿教他们做游戏。
Then I came to the ferry and stood under the maple tree to visit my magpie brother. Brother Magpie is growing up so fast, it's great. I saw the magpie ants standing by the nest, sometimes teaching the magpie brothers to sing, and sometimes teaching them to play games.
一会儿教他们学自己发明的拼音字母雀，雀，雀。喜鹊阿姨叫道。我知道，这便是 A、O、E。喜鹊弟弟也跟着学，雀，雀，雀。今天早上，太阳从渡口对岸山岗后面升上来了。
I will teach them the pinyin letters I invented later. Magpie, magpie, magpie. Aunt Magpie taught. I know, this is A-O-E. Brother Magpie also followed suit. Magpie, magpie, magpie. This morning, the sun rose from behind the hill on the other side of the ferry.
我看见喜鹊阿姨站在窝边，指着上升的太阳，问喜鹊弟弟：“雀，雀雀雀。”我懂得他问话的意思是：“看，那是什么？”喜鹊弟弟一起快乐地回答：“雀，雀雀，雀雀雀。”我懂得。
I saw the magpie ant standing by the nest, pointing to the rising sun, and asking the magpie brother, Magpie, 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 Magpie. I understood that the meaning of her question was, look. What is that? Magpie, the younger brothers answered happily together, Magpie, 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 Magpie. I understand.
喜鹊弟弟很快给出了答案：“妈妈，那是太阳，太阳升上来了。”我真高兴啊！本文作者郭峰，14沙滩上的童话。海边的沙滩是我们的快乐天地。在沙堆上
The magpie brother quickly gave the answer, Mom, that's the sun. The sun is rising. I'm so happy. The author of this article, Guofeng, 14. Fairy tales on the beach. The beach at the seaside is our happy world. On the sand pile.
我们垒起城堡，城堡周围筑起围墙，围墙外再插上干树枝，那就是我们的树。不知道谁说了一句：“这城堡里住着一个凶狠的魔王。”有人接着补充
We built a castle, built a wall around the castle, and inserted dry branches outside the wall, and that was our tree. I don't know who said, there is a ferocious devil living in this castle. Someone then added.
他抢去了美丽的公主。第三个小伙伴说：“你们快听，公主在城堡里哭呢。”就这样，我们编织着童话。转眼间，我们亲手建造的城堡成了一座魔窟。
He stole the beautiful princess. The third friend said, Listen, the princess is crying in the castle. In this way, we weave fairy tales. In a blink of an eye, the castle we built with our own hands turned into a magic cave.
我们也成了攻打魔窟的勇士。我们一起商量怎样攻下那座城堡。一个小伙伴说：“我驾驶飞机去轰炸。”有人反驳：“那时候还没有飞机呢。”我说：“挖地道。”
We have also become warriors who attack the devil's cave. Let's discuss how to capture that castle. A friend said, I flew a plane to bomb. Someone retorted, there were no airplanes at that time. I said, dig tunnels.
从地下装上火药，把城堡炸平。我的办法得到了大家的赞赏。于是我们趴在沙滩上，从四面八方挖着地道。挖呀挖呀，我们终于挖到了城堡下面。
Load gunpowder from underground and blow up the castle. My method was appreciated by everyone. So we lay on the beach and dug tunnels from all directions. Digging, digging, we finally dug under the castle.
然后合力用手往上一抬，就把城堡给轰塌了。我们欢呼着胜利，欢呼着炸死了魔王，欢呼着救出了公主。但公主在哪儿？忽然，我发现妈妈就站在我们身后。
Then they worked together to lift it up with their hands, and the castle collapsed. We cheered for victory, cheered for blowing up the devil, and cheered for rescuing the princess. But where is the princess? Suddenly, I found my mother standing behind us.
微笑着望着我们，我大声说：“公主被我们救出来了，就出来了，在这儿，在这儿！”我抱住了妈妈，大家跟着一起叫喊着，欢呼着。真的，那时候
looking at us with a smile. I said loudly, "The princess was rescued by us, rescued. Here, here." I hugged my mother. Everyone shouted and cheered together. Really, at that time.
连我也忘记了她是我的妈妈。本文作者金波15。我是一只小虫子，当一只小虫子好不好？我的伙伴们都说，当一只小虫子一点都不好。我们蹦蹦跳跳的时候。
Even I forgot she was my mother. The author of this article is Jean Bo. 15. I am a little bug. Is it okay to be a little bug? My friends all said, being a little bug is not good at all. When we were jumping around.
一定要看准地方，不然屁股会被苍耳刺痛的。一不留神，我们会蹦进很深很深的水里，被淹得昏头昏脑。其实，那深水只是小狗撒的一泡尿。
Be sure to look at the right place, otherwise the buttocks will be stung by cockleburrs. If we are not careful, we will jump into very deep water and be drowned until we are dizzy. In fact, the deep water was just a puddle of urine from a puppy.
孩子们都觉得毛茸茸的小鸟很可爱，但我们小虫子没有谁会喜欢小鸟。不过，我觉得当一只小虫子还真不错。早上醒来，我在摇摇晃晃的草叶上伸懒腰。
Children all think fluffy birds are cute, but none of us little bugs like birds. However, I think being a little bug is pretty good. When I woke up in the morning, I stretched myself on the swaying blades of grass.
用一颗露珠把脸洗干净，把细长的触须擦得亮亮的。如果能小心地跳到狗的身上，我们就可以到很远的地方去旅行。这可是免费的特快列车呀！
Use a dewdrop to wash your face clean and polish your slender tentacles until they shine. If we could jump onto a dog carefully, we could travel far away. This is a free express train.
我有很多小伙伴，每一个都特别有意思。走在外面一定要小心，别被屎壳郎撞伤，因为他们搬运食物的时候从来不看路。螳螂很贪吃，总想把我吃掉，但真幸运。
I have a lot of friends, and everyone is very interesting. Be careful when walking outside to avoid getting hurt by dung beetles, because they never look at the road when carrying food. The mantis is very greedy and always wants to eat me, but I'm so lucky.
它不会像我一样跳。有些虫子脾气不太好，比如天牛。每次我说天牛大婶早上好，它总是想顶我一下。我喜欢当一只小虫子。当我很快乐的时候，会使劲叫蛙叫。
He can't dance like me. Some bugs have bad tempers, such as longhorned beetles. Every time I say, "Good morning, Aunt Longhorned," she always wants to nudge me. I like being a little bug. When I am very happy, I will scream loudly.
所以，如果你在夜晚听见草地里的歌声，你就一定能找到我。本文作者张悦16。亡羊补牢。从前有个人养了几只羊。一天早上，他去放羊，发现羊少了一只。
So if you hear singing in the meadow at night, you can definitely find me. The author of this article is Zhang Yu, 16. Make up for it after the sheep are gone. There once was a man who raised a few sheep. One morning, he went to herd sheep and found that one sheep was missing.
原来羊圈破了个窟窿嘛，夜里狼从窟窿钻进去，把羊叼走了。街坊劝他说：“赶紧把羊圈修一修，堵上那个窟窿吧。”他说：“羊已经丢了，还修羊圈干什么？” 第二天早上
It turns out that there was a hole in the sheepfold. At night, the wolf got in through the hole and took the sheep away. The neighbor advised him, "Hurry up and repair the sheepfold and block the hole." He said, "The sheep have been lost, so why repair the sheepfold?" The next morning,
他去放羊，发现羊又少了一只。原来狼又从窟窿钻进去，把羊叼走了。他很后悔没有听街坊的劝告，心想现在修还不晚。他赶紧堵上那个窟窿。
he went to herd sheep and found that one sheep was missing. It turned out that the wolf got in through the hole again and took the sheep away. He regretted not listening to his neighbor's advice and thought, "It's not too late to fix it now." He quickly blocked the hole.
把羊圈修得结结实实的。从此，他的羊再也没丢过。17. 揠苗助长。古时候有个人，他巴望自己田里的禾苗长得快些，天天到田边去看。可是1天、2天、3天。
Make the sheepfold solid. From then on, his sheep never lost again. 17. Pull the seedlings to encourage them to grow. In ancient times, there was a man who wanted the seedlings in his field to grow faster, so he went to the field every day to see them. But, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days.
禾苗好像一点儿也没有长高。他在田边焦急地转来转去，自言自语地说：“我得想个办法帮他们长。”一天，他终于想出了办法，就急忙跑到田里。
The seedlings didn't seem to grow taller at all. He anxiously walked around the field and said to himself, "I have to find a way to help them grow." One day, he finally figured out a way and hurried to the field.
把禾苗一棵一棵往高里拔，从中午一直忙到太阳落山，弄得筋疲力尽。他回到家里，一边喘气一边说：“今天可把我累坏了。”力气总算没白费，禾苗都长高了一大截。
Pull up the seedlings one by one. I was busy from noon until the sun went down, and I was exhausted. When he returned home, he panted and said, "I was exhausted today. My efforts were finally in vain, and the seedlings have grown a lot taller."
他的儿子不明白是怎么回事，第二天跑到田里一看，禾苗都枯死了。18. 画杨桃。有一次上图画课，老师把2个杨桃摆在讲桌上，要同学们画。
His son didn't understand what was going on. He ran to the field the next day and saw that the seedlings were all dead. 18. Drawing star fruits. Once in a drawing class, the teacher placed 2 star fruits on the desk and asked the students to draw them.
我的座位在教室前排靠边的地方，讲桌上那2个杨桃的一端正对着我。我看到的杨桃根本不像平时看到的那样，而像是5个角的什么东西。我认认真真的看。
My seat is near the front row of the classroom, and one end of the 2 star fruits on the desk is facing me. The star fruit I saw didn't look like what I usually see at all, but looked like something with 5 corners. I looked at it carefully.
老老实实的画，自己觉得画得很准确。当我把这幅画交出去的时候，班里几个同学看见了，哈哈大笑起来。杨桃是这个样子的吗？倒不如说是五角星吧。
I drew it honestly, and I think it was very accurate. When I handed over this painting, several classmates in the class saw it and laughed. Is this what a star fruit looks like? It's better to say it's a 5-pointed star.
老师看了看这幅画，到我的座位上坐下来，审视了一下讲桌上的杨桃，然后回到讲桌前， 举起我的那页画纸，问大家这幅画画的像不像？不像。它像什么？像五角星。
The teacher looked at the painting, sat down in my seat, looked at the star fruit on the desk, then returned to the desk, raised the page of my drawing paper, and asked everyone, "This painting, does it look like it?" "No." "What does it look like?" "It looks like a 5-pointed star."
老师的神情变得严肃了。班上，他又问道：“画杨桃画成了五角星，好笑吗？”“好笑。”有几个同学抢着答道，同时发出嘻嘻的笑声。于是
The teacher's expression became serious. After a while, he asked again, "Is it funny to draw star fruit into a 5-pointed star?" "Okay, laugh." Several students rushed to answer, laughing at the same time. Then
老师请这几个同学轮流坐到我的座位上。他对第一个坐下的同学说：“现在你看看那杨桃，像你平时看到的杨桃吗？”“不像。”“那么像什么呢？”“像五角星。”“好，下一个。”
The teacher asked these students to take turns sitting in my seat. He said to the first student who sat down, "Now look at that star fruit. Does it look like the star fruit you usually see?" "No, it looks like it." "Then, what does it look like?" "Like 5-pointed stars." "Okay, next one."
老师让这几个同学回到自己的座位上，然后和颜悦色地说：“大家发现了吗？看的角度不同，杨桃的样子也就不一样。当我们看见别人把杨桃画成五角星的时候。”
The teacher asked these students to return to their seats, and then said pleasantly, "Have you noticed? The carambola looks different depending on the angle of view. When we saw others painting the carambola into a 5-pointed star."
不要忙着发笑，要看看人家是从什么角度看的。老师的教诲让我终生难忘。本文作者岑桑。19小马过河，马棚里住着一匹老马和一匹小马。有一天
Don't be too busy laughing, but see how people see it. The teacher's teachings will be unforgettable for my whole life. The author of this article, Sun Sang. 19. Pony crossing the river. There was an old horse and a pony living in the stable. One day,
老马对小马说：“你已经长大了，能帮妈妈做点事吗？”小马连蹦带跳地说：“怎么不能？我很愿意帮您做事。”老马高兴地说：“那好啊，你把这半口袋麦子驮到磨坊去吧。”
the old horse said to the little horse, "You have grown up. Can you help your mother do something?" The little horse jumped up and said, "Why not? I am very willing to help you." The old horse said happily, "Okay then, you can carry this half bag of wheat to the mill."
小马驮起口袋，飞快地往磨坊跑去。跑着跑着，一条小河挡住了去路，河水哗哗地流着。小马为难了，心想：我能不能过去呢？如果妈妈在身边，问问她该怎么办。
The pony picked up the bag and ran quickly to the mill. While running, a small river blocked the way, and the water flowed loudly. Xiao Ma was in a dilemma and thought, "Can I get there? If your mother is around, ask her what to do."
那多好啊！可是他离家已经很远了。小马向四周望望，看见一头老牛在河边吃草。小马哒哒哒跑过去，问道：“牛伯伯，请您告诉我，这条河我能趟过去吗？”老牛说：“
How wonderful that is! but he was already far away from home. The pony looked around and saw an old cow grazing by the river. The pony ran over and asked, "Uncle Cow, please tell me, can I cross this river?" Lao Niu said,
水很浅，刚没小腿，能趟过去。小马听了老牛的话，立刻跑到河边，准备趟过去。突然，从树上跳下一只松鼠，拦住他，大叫：“小马，别过河，别过河，你会淹死的。”
"The water is so shallow that I can wade through it just up to my shins." After hearing what the old cow said, the pony immediately ran to the river and was about to wade across. Suddenly, a squirrel jumped out of the tree, stopped him and shouted, "Pony! Don't cross the river, don't cross the river, you'll drown."
小马吃惊地问：“水很深吗？”松鼠认真地说：“深得很厉。昨天，我的一个伙伴就掉在这条河里淹死的。”小马连忙收住脚步，不知道怎么办才好。他叹了口气说：“唉。”
The pony asked in surprise, "Is the water very deep?" The squirrel said seriously, "It's very deep. Yesterday, one of my friends fell into this river and drowned." The pony quickly stopped. "I don't know what to do." He sighed and said, "Alas."
还是回家问问妈妈吧。小马甩甩尾巴，跑回家去。妈妈问：“怎么回来了？”小马难为情地说：“一条河挡住了去路，我过不去。”妈妈说：“那条河不是很浅吗？”小马说：“是啊。”
"You should go home and ask your mother." The pony swung its tail and ran home. Mom asked, "Why are you back?" Xiao Ma said embarrassedly, "A river is blocking the way. I can't get across." My mother said, "Isn't that river very shallow?" Xiao Ma said, "Yes."
牛伯伯也这么说。可是松鼠说河水很深，还淹死过他的伙伴呢。妈妈说：“那么河水到底是深还是浅？你仔细想过他们的话吗？”小马低下了头，说：“没想过。”
Uncle Neo said the same thing. But the squirrel said that the river was very deep and had even drowned his friend. My mother said, "So is the river deep or shallow? Have you thought carefully about what they said?" Xiao Ma lowered his head and said, "I haven't, never thought about it."
妈妈亲切地对小马说：“孩子，光听别人说，自己不动脑筋，不去试试是不行的。河水是深是浅，你去试一试就知道了。”小马跑到河边，刚刚抬起前蹄，松鼠又大叫起来。
The mother said to Xiao Ma kindly, "My child, you can't just listen to what others say and don't use your own brain or try it. You will know if the river is deep or shallow, just try it." Xiao Ma, after running to the river, as soon as he raised his front hooves, the squirrel shouted again.
怎么，你不要命了？小马说：“让我试试吧。”他下了河，小心地趟到了对岸。原来河水既不像老牛说的那样浅，也不像松鼠说的那样深。本文作者彭文习20。
How? You don't want your life? Xiao Ma said, "Let me try it." He got down into the river and waded carefully to the other side. It turned out that the river was neither as shallow as the old cow said, nor as deep as the squirrel said. The author of this article, Peng Wenxi. 20.
小出净词四宋林子方，宋杨万里。毕竟西湖6月中，风光不与40同。接天莲叶无穷碧，映日荷花别样红。21绝句，唐·杜甫。 两个黄鹂鸣翠柳。
Seeing Lin Zifang off at Jingxi Temple at dawn, Song Dynasty, Yang Wanli. After all, in the middle of June, the scenery of West Lake is different from that of the Four Seasons. The lotus leaves touching the sky are infinitely green, the lotus flowers reflecting the sun are uniquely red. 21. Quatrains, Tang Dynasty, Du Fu, two orioles singing in the green willows.
一行白鹭上青天，窗含西岭千秋雪，门泊东吴万里船。22雷雨，满天的乌云黑沉沉地压下来，树上的叶子一动不动，蝉一声也不出。忽然一阵大风，吹得树枝乱摆。
A row of egrets ascends to the sky. The window contains the snow of Qianqiu in the Xiling Mountains. The door is docked with a ship thousands of miles away from Dongwu. 22. Thunderstorm. The sky was filled with dark clouds, pressing down heavily. The leaves on the trees were motionless, and the cicada was silent. Suddenly a strong wind blew the branches swaying wildly.
一只蜘蛛从网上垂下来，逃走了。闪电越来越亮，雷声越来越响。哗哗哗，雨下起来了。雨越下越大，往窗外望去，树啊，房子啊，都看不清了。渐渐的，雷声小了。
A spider dangled from the web and escaped. The lightning became brighter and brighter, and the thunder became louder and louder. Wah, 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 it started to rain. The rain is getting heavier and heavier. Looking out the window, I can't see the trees or the house clearly. Gradually, the thunder became smaller.
雨声也小了，天亮起来了。打开窗户，清新的空气迎面扑来。雨停了，太阳出来了，一条彩虹挂在天空。蝉叫了，蜘蛛又坐在网上。池塘里水满了，青蛙也叫起来了。23.
The sound of rain also became quieter. It's dawn. Open the window and let the fresh air rush into your face. The rain stopped. The sun is coming out. A rainbow hangs in the sky. The cicada chirped. The spider sat on the web again. The pond is full of water and the frogs are chirping. 23.
要是你在野外迷了路，可千万别慌张。大自然有很多天然的指南针，会帮助你辨别方向。太阳是个忠实的向导，它在天空给你指点方向。
If you get lost in the wild, don't panic. Nature has many natural compasses that will help you identify the direction. The sun is a faithful guide. It gives you direction in the sky.
中午的时候，它在南边，地上的树影正指着北方。北极星是展指路灯，它永远高挂在北方。要是你能认出它，就不会在黑夜里乱闯。要是碰上阴雨天。
It was in the south at noon. The shadows of the trees on the ground pointed north. The North Star is a guiding light. It always hangs high in the north. If you could recognize it, you wouldn't wander around in the dark. If it's a rainy day.
大树也会来帮忙。枝叶稠的一面是南方，枝叶稀的一面是北方。雪特别怕太阳，沟渠里的积雪会给你指点方向。看看哪边雪化得快，哪边化得慢。
Big trees will also come to help. The side with dense branches and leaves is the south. The side with sparse branches and leaves is the north. Snow is particularly afraid of the sun. The snow and the ditch will give you directions. Look at which side the snow melts quickly and which side melts slowly.
就可以分辨北方和南方。要是你在野外迷了路，可千万别慌张。大自然有很多天然的指南针，需要你细细观察，多多去想。本文作者戴巴蒂。24. 太空生活趣事多。
You can tell the difference between north and south. If you get lost in the wild, don't panic. Nature has many natural compasses. You need to observe carefully and think a lot. The author of this article is deviations. 2-4. There are many interesting things about space life.
你知道航天员在太空中怎样生活吗？说起来还挺有趣呢。在宇宙飞船里，站着睡觉和躺着睡觉一样舒服。不过，要想睡个安稳觉。
Do you know how astronauts live in space? It's quite interesting to say. In a spaceship, sleeping standing up is just as comfortable as sleeping lying down. However, if you want to have a peaceful sleep,
航天员必须钻入固定在舱壁上的睡袋里，不然一不小心就会飘到别处去。在宇宙飞船里活动也需要技巧，跟在地面上用腿脚行走不同。
the astronauts must get into sleeping bags fixed to the bulkhead. Otherwise, it will drift to other places accidentally. Activities in a spaceship also require skills. It is different from walking on the ground with legs and feet.
航天员在舱体里移动主要靠手臂。为了方便航天员在舱体中活动，舱壁上安装了很多特制的扶手。平时，航天员会依靠这些扶手或其他设施稳定自己的身体。
Astronauts move around in the cabin mainly with their arms. In order to facilitate astronauts' activities in the cabin, many special handrails are installed on the cabin wall. Usually, astronauts rely on these handrails or other facilities to stabilize their bodies.
在宇宙飞船里是没有办法用普通的杯子喝水的，因为水处于失重状态，即使把杯子倒过来，谁也不会往下流。航天员要想喝到水，得使用一种带吸管的饮水袋。
In a spaceship, there is no way to drink from an ordinary cup. Because the water is weightless, even if you turn the cup upside down, the water will not flow down. If astronauts want to drink water, they have to use a drinking bag with a straw.
直接把水挤到嘴里。航天员在太空中洗澡可不是一件容易的事。从喷头喷出的水总是漂浮在空中，为了解决这个问题，科研人员做了一个试验。
Squeeze the water directly into your mouth. It is not easy for astronauts to take a shower in space. The water sprayed from the nozzle always floats in the air. In order to solve this problem, the researchers conducted an experiment.
他们设计了一个密封浴桶，在下边安装吸管，它可以把喷头喷出来的水朝一个方向吸。但洗完澡以后，航天员还要花很长时间清理身体上和浴桶里的水。
They designed a sealed bathtub with a straw installed underneath, which can suck the water sprayed from the nozzle in one direction. But after taking a shower, the astronauts still have to spend a long time cleaning the water on their bodies and in the tub.
实在太麻烦了，所以现在航天员通常只用免洗湿巾擦拭身体，这就简单省事多了。你看，在太空中生活是不是很有趣？25. 大象的耳朵。大象有一对大耳朵。
It's too much trouble. Therefore, astronauts now usually just use disposable wipes to wipe their bodies, which is much simpler and less troublesome. Look, isn't it interesting to live in space? 2-5. The elephant's ears. The elephant has a pair of big ears.
像扇子似的耷拉着。这一天，大象正在路上慢慢的散步，遇到了小兔子。小兔子说：“咦，大象啊，你的耳朵怎么耷拉下痂了？”大象说：“我生来就是这样啊。”小兔子说：“你看。”
Like a fan, drooping. On this day, the elephant was walking slowly on the road and met the little rabbit. The little rabbit said, "Hey, elephant, why are your ears drooped?" The elephant said, "I was born like this." The little rabbit said, "Look."
我的耳朵是竖着的，你的耳朵一定是出毛病了。后来，大象又遇到了小羊，小羊也说：“大象啊，你的耳朵怎么是耷拉着的呢？”小鹿、小马还有小老鼠见到了大象。
My ears are standing up. There must be something wrong with your ears. Later, the elephant met the lamb again. The lamb also said, "Elephant, why are your ears drooping?" The deer, the pony, and the little mouse saw the elephant.
都要说他的耳朵。大象也不安起来，他自言自语地说：“他们都这么说，是不是我的耳朵真的有毛病了？我得让我的耳朵竖起来。怎么才能让耳朵竖起来呢？每天。”
All have to say to his ears. The elephant also became uneasy, and he said to himself, "They all say that. Is there really something wrong with my ears? I have to make my ears stand up. How can I make my ears stand up? Get up. Every day."
大象站着睡觉的时候，就用2根竹竿把耳朵撑起来。可是，大象的耳朵孔里经常有小虫子飞进去，还在它的耳朵孔里跳舞，吵得它又头痛又心烦。最后
When the elephant sleeps standing up, he uses 2 bamboo poles to prop up his ears. However, small insects often fly into the elephant's ear holes and dance in his ear holes, causing him a headache and being upset. At last,
大象还是把它的耳朵放了下来，这样虫子飞不进去了。有虫子来的话，大象只要把它的大耳朵一扇，就能把它们赶跑。大象说：“我还是让耳朵耷拉着吧。”
The elephant still put his ears down. In this way, insects cannot fly in. If bugs come, the elephant just needs to slap his big ears to drive them away. The elephant said, "I'd better let my ears droop."
人家是人家，我是我。26蜘蛛开店，有一只蜘蛛，每天蹲在网上等着小飞虫落在上面，好寂寞，好无聊啊。蜘蛛决定开一家商店，卖什么呢？就卖口罩吧。
Others are others, and I am me. 26. Spider opens a shop. There was a spider who squatted on the web every day waiting for small flying insects to land on it. It was so lonely and boring. The spider decided to open a store. What to sell? Just sell masks.
因为口罩织起来很简单，于是蜘蛛在一间小木屋外面挂了一个招牌，上面写着“口罩编织店”，每位顾客只需付1元钱。顾客来了，是一只河马，河马嘴巴那么大。
Because masks are very simple to knit. So Spider hung a sign outside a small wooden house, which read, "Mask Weaving Shop, each customer only pays 1 yuan." The customer came, and it was a hippopotamus. The hippo's mouth is so big.
口罩好难织啊，蜘蛛用了一整天的功夫，终于织完了。晚上，蜘蛛想，还是卖围巾吧， 因为围巾织起来很简单。第二天，蜘蛛的招牌换了，上面写着“围巾编织店”。
The mask was so difficult to weave. It took the spider a whole day to finally finish it. At night, Spider thought, let's sell scarves, because scarves are very simple to weave. The next day, Spider's sign changed and it read, Scarf Knitting Shop.
每位顾客只需付1元钱。顾客来了，只见身子不见头。蜘蛛向上一看，原来是一只长颈鹿，它的脖子和大树一样高，脑袋从树叶间露出来，正对着蜘蛛笑呢。
Each customer only pays $1. When the customer came, he saw only the body but not the head. When the spider looked up, it turned out to be a giraffe. His neck was as high as the tree, and his head was exposed from the leaves. He was smiling at the spider.
蜘蛛织啊织，足足忙了1个星期，才织完那条长长的围巾。蜘蛛累得趴倒在地上，心里想，还是卖袜子吧，因为袜子织起来很简单。第二天，蜘蛛的招牌又换了。
The spider knitted and knitted, and it took a full week to finish weaving the long scarf. The spider fell down on the ground tiredly, thinking, let's sell socks, because socks are very simple to knit. The next day, Spider's sign changed again.
上面写着袜子编织店，每位顾客只需付1元钱。可是蜘蛛看到顾客后，却吓得匆忙跑回网上。原来那位顾客竟是一条42只脚的蜈蚣。本文作者鲁宾，27。
It said, sock knitting shop, each customer only pays 1 yuan. However, when the spider saw the customer, it was so frightened that it ran back to the web. It turned out that the customer was a centipede with 42 legs. The author of this article, Lu Bing, 27.
青蛙卖泥塘，青蛙住在烂泥塘里。他觉得这儿不怎么样，想把泥塘卖掉，换一些钱搬到城里住。于是青蛙在泥塘边竖起一块牌子，上面写着“卖泥塘”3个字。
Frogs are sold in muddy ponds. Frogs live in muddy ponds. He felt that it was not very good here and wanted to sell the mud pond to get some money and move to the city. So the frog put up a sign beside the mud pond with the words "Selling Mud Pond" written on it.
卖泥塘喽，卖泥塘！青蛙站在牌子边，大声吆喝起来。一头老牛走过来，看了看泥塘，说：“这个水坑坑嘛，在里边打打滚倒挺舒服。不过，要是周围有些草，就更好了。”
Selling mud ponds, selling mud ponds. The frog stood by the sign and shouted loudly. An old cow came over, looked at the mud pond, and said, "This puddle is quite comfortable to roll around in. However, it would be better if there was some grass around."
老牛不想买泥塘，走了。青蛙想，要是在泥塘周围种些草，就能卖出去了。于是他就去采集草籽，播撒在泥塘周围的地上。到了春天，泥塘周围长出了绿茵茵的小草。
Lao Nyo didn't want to buy the mud pond, so he left. The frog thought that if he planted some grass around the mud pond, he could sell it. So he went to collect grass seeds and sowed them on the ground around the mud pond. In spring, green grass grows around the mud pond.
青蛙又站在牌子旁边，大声吆喝起来：“卖泥塘喽，卖泥塘！”一只野鸭飞来了，看了看泥塘，说：“这地方好是好，就是塘里的水太少了。”野鸭没有买泥塘，飞走了。青蛙想
The frog stood next to the sign again and shouted loudly, the mud pond is for sale, the mud pond is for sale. A wild duck flew over, looked at the mud pond and said, "This place is good, but there is too little water in the pond." The wild duck did not buy the mud pond and flew away. Thought the frog.
要是能往泥塘里引些水，就能卖出去了。于是他跑到周围的山里找到泉水，又砍了些竹子，把竹子破开，一根一根接起来，把水引到泥塘里来。
If we can divert some water into the mud pond, we can sell it. So he ran to the surrounding mountains to find spring water, cut some bamboo, broke the bamboos, connected them one by one, and led the water into the mud pond.
等泥塘里灌足了水以后，青蛙又站在牌子下，大声吆喝起来：“卖泥塘喽，卖泥塘！”可是泥塘还是没有卖出去。小鸟飞来说：“这里缺点树。”蝴蝶飞来说：“这里缺点花。”
After the mud pond was filled with enough water, the frog stood under the sign again and shouted loudly, "The mud pond is for sale, the mud pond is for sale." But the mud pond was still not sold. A bird flies and says, "There are no trees here." A butterfly flies and says, "There are no flowers here."
小兔跑来说：“这里还缺条路。”小猴跑来说：“这儿应该盖所房子。”小狐狸说：“每次听了小动物的话，青蛙都想，对，要是那样的话，泥塘准能卖出去。”
The little rabbit ran and said that there is still a lack of road here. The little monkey ran and said that a house should be built here. The little fox said. Every time he heard what the little animals said, the frog thought, "Yes. Right. If that were the case, Nitong would definitely be sold."
于是青蛙就照着他们的话去做，栽了树，种了花，修了路，还在泥塘旁边盖了房子。卖泥塘喽，卖泥塘！有一天，青蛙又站在牌子旁吆喝起来：“多好的地方！有树，有花。”
So the frog did as they asked, planted trees, planted flowers, built roads, and built a house next to the mud pond. The mud pond is for sale, the mud pond is for sale. One day, the frog stood next to the sign and shouted, "What a wonderful place! There are trees and flowers.
有草，有水塘。你可以看蝴蝶在花丛中飞舞，听小鸟在树上唱歌。你可以在水里尽情游泳，躺在草地上晒太阳。这儿还有道路通到城里。青蛙说到这里，突然愣住了。
There are grass and ponds. You can watch butterflies flying among the flowers and listen to the birds singing in the trees. You can swim in the water and lie on the grass to bask in the sun. There is also a road leading to the city. When the frog said this, he suddenly froze.
他想，这么好的地方，自己住挺好的，为什么要卖掉呢？于是青蛙不再卖泥塘了。本文作者记影28，小毛虫，一条小毛虫趴在一片叶子上。
He thought, "It's such a good place to live in, so why sell it?" So the frogs no longer sold themselves in the mud. The author of this article is Ji-ing, 28. Small caterpillar. A small caterpillar is lying on a leaf.
用新奇的目光打量着周围的一切，大大小小的昆虫又是唱又是跳，跑的跑，飞的飞，到处生机勃勃。只有它，这个可怜的小毛虫，既不会唱，也不会跑，更不会飞。
Look at everything around you with novel eyes. Insects of all sizes are singing, jumping, running, flying, everywhere is full of life. Only it, this poor little caterpillar, can neither sing, nor run, nor fly.
小毛虫费了9牛2虎之力才挪动了一点点。当它笨拙地从一片叶子爬到另一片叶子上时，它觉得自己仿佛周游了整个世界。尽管如此，它并不悲观失望。
The little caterpillar moved a little bit with great effort. As it clumsily crawls from leaf to leaf, it feels as if it has traveled the entire world. Nonetheless, it is not pessimistic and disappointing.
也不羡慕任何人，他懂得每个人都有自己该做的事情。他，一条小小的毛虫，眼前最要紧的是学会抽丝纺织，为自己编织一间牢固的茧屋。
Nor do I envy anyone. It understands, everyone has something to do. It, a little caterpillar, the most important thing at present is to learn to spin and spin, and weave a strong cocoon house for itself.
小毛虫一刻也没有迟疑，尽心竭力地工作着。它织啊织啊，最后把自己从头到脚裹进了温暖的茧屋里。以后会怎样呢？它在与世隔绝的茧屋里问。
The little caterpillar didn't hesitate for a moment and worked hard. It weaves, weaves, and finally wraps itself in a warm cocoon from head to toe. What will happen next? It asked in its isolated cocoon house.
万事万物都有自己的规律。小毛虫听到一个声音在回答：“你要耐心等待，以后会明白的。”时辰到了，它清醒了过来，再也不是以前那条笨手笨脚的小毛虫。
Everything has its own laws. The little caterpillar heard a voice replying, "You have to wait patiently and you will understand later." When the time comes, it wakes up and is no longer the clumsy little caterpillar it was before.
它灵巧地从茧子里挣脱出来，惊奇地发现自己身上生出了一对轻盈的翅膀，上面布满色彩斑斓的花纹。它愉快地舞动了一下双翅，如绒毛一般。
It nimbly broke out of the cocoon and was surprised to find a pair of light wings covered with colorful patterns on its body. It flapped its wings happily, like downy feathers.
从叶子上飘然而起，它飞呀飞，渐渐地消失在蓝色的雾霭之中。本文作者是意大利的达芬奇，译者张富生。29祖先的摇篮，爷爷说那原始森林。
Floating from the leaves. It flew and flew, gradually disappearing into the blue mist. The author of this article is Leonardo da Vinci from Italy, and the translator is Zhang Fusheng. 29. The cradle of our ancestors. Grandpa said, the primeval forest.
是我们祖先的摇篮，真有意思，这是多大的摇篮啊！那浓绿的树荫一望无边，遮住了蓝天。我想，我们的祖先可曾在这些大树上摘野果、掏雀蛋，可曾在那片草地上。
It is the cradle of our ancestors. How interesting, what a cradle this is. The thick green shade of the trees is boundless as far as the eye can see, covering the blue sky. I think, our ancestors, did they ever pick wild fruits and dig magpie eggs on these big trees? Have you ever been on that grassland?
和野兔赛跑，看蘑菇打伞。那时候，孩子们也在这里逗小松鼠，采野蔷薇吗？也曾在这里捉红蜻蜓、逮绿蝈蝈吗？风吹动树叶，沙沙沙沙，那回忆多么美好。
Racing with a hare, watching a mushroom holding an umbrella. At that time, the children were here too, playing with the little squirrels, picking wild roses. I also caught red dragonflies here, caught green grasshoppers. The wind blows the leaves, rust, rustle. That memory, how beautiful,
又那么遥远啊！苍苍茫茫的原始森林，我们祖先的摇篮。本文作者吴成，30。当世界年纪还小的时候，每样东西都必须学习怎么生活。
And so far away. Ah, the vast virgin forest, the cradle of our ancestors. The author of this article is Wu Xian. 30. When the world was still young, everything had to learn how to live.
太阳开始学发光，学着怎么上山下山。他也试过做别的事，但是都没有成功。譬如说唱歌，他粗糙的声音把这个敏感的新世界吓坏了。
The sun began to learn to shine, and learned how to go up and down the mountain. It also tried to do other things, but without success. For example, rap singing. Its rough sound frightens this sensitive new world.
月亮不知道自己该学些什么，学发光吗？白天他觉得这主意不好，晚上他又觉得这主意不错。他一直无法决定，只好反反复复，一下子变圆，一下子又变缺。
The moon doesn't know what to learn. Learn to shine. During the day it thought it was a bad idea, but at night it thought it was a good idea. It has been unable to decide, so it has to go back and forth, becoming round and missing again.
于是他学会的是不断的变化。水开始学习流动，他很快就学会了，因为只有一种方式，那就是一直往低处流，往低处流，往低处流。那时候生活就是这么简单。
So what it learns is constant change. The water begins to learn to flow. It learned quickly, because there is only one way, and that is, keep flowing down, down, down. At that time, life was so simple.
每样东西只要弄明白自己做什么最容易就行了。世界在慢慢变化，万物在自由生长。雨从云里落下，滴进泥土里，人睁开眼睛就可以看到一切有多美好。
Just figure out what is easiest for you to do. The world is slowly changing, and all things are growing freely. Rain falls from the clouds and drips into the soil. When people open their eyes, they can see how beautiful everything is.
只要万物都做它最容易做的事，这世界就很有秩序了。这世界还相当有秩序哦。不要往下讲了，最好再从头开始。这个故事没有结局，却有很多开头。
As long as everything does what is easiest for it to do, the world will be in order. This world is quite orderly, oh. Don't go any further, it's better to start from the beginning. This story has no ending, but many beginnings.
很多很多开头。很久很久以前，当世界年纪还小的时候，本文作者是德国的于尔克·舒比格，译者林敏雅，31，译社9日。很久很久以前，在世界最东边的海上。
Many, many beginnings. A long, long time ago, when the world was still young, the author of this article is Jörg Schubig of Germany, and the translator is Lin Minya, 31. Each shot 9 days, a long, long time ago, in the world's easternmost sea.
生长着一棵大树，叫扶桑。扶桑的枝头站着一个太阳，底下还有9个太阳。每天天快亮时，扶桑枝头的太阳就坐上2轮车，开始从东往西穿过天空。
There is a big tree called Fusang. There is a sun standing on the branch of the Fusang, and there are 9 suns underneath. Every day at dawn, the sun on the hibiscus branches gets on a 2-wheeled vehicle and begins to cross the sky from east to west.
10个太阳每天轮换，给大地万物带来光明和温暖。 可是有一天，这10个太阳觉得轮流值日太没意思了，于是他们一起跑了出来，出现在天空中。
The 10 suns rotate every day, bringing light and warmth to all things on earth. However, one day, these 10 suns felt that taking turns on duty was too boring, so they ran out together and appeared in the sky.
10个太阳像10个大火球，炙烤着大地。禾苗被晒枯了，土地被烤焦了，江河里的水快要蒸干了，连地上的沙石好像都要融化了。人类的日子非常艰难。
The 10 suns are like 10 fireballs, scorching the earth. The seedlings were dried up in the sun, the land was scorched, the water in the rivers was about to evaporate, and even the sand and stones on the ground seemed to be melted. Life is very difficult for humans.
神箭手义决心帮助人们脱离苦海。他翻过了99座高山，趟过了99条大河，来到了东海边。他登上了一座大山，搭上神箭，拉开神弓，对准天上的一个太阳。
The archer E was determined to help people escape from suffering. He climbed over 99 mountains, crossed 99 rivers, and came to the East China Sea. He climbed up a big mountain, set up the magic arrow, drew the magic bow, and pointed it at the sun in the sky.
嗖的就是一箭，那个太阳一下子爆裂开，一团团火球到处乱窜，接着噗噗地掉在地上。一口气射下了9个太阳，炎热渐渐退去。一又伸手拔剑。
Swish to the ground is an arrow. The sun suddenly exploded, and balls of fire were flying everywhere. Then, it fell to the ground with a plop. He shot down 9 suns in one breath, and the heat gradually subsided. He stretched out his hand again and pulled out the arrow.
准备射下最后一个太阳。这个太阳害怕极了，慌慌张张地躲进了大海里。天上没有了太阳，整个世界一片黑暗。一想，没有了太阳，就没有了光明和温暖。
Get ready to shoot down the last sun. The sun was so frightened that he hid in the sea in panic. There is no sun in the sky, and the whole world is dark. He thought, without the sun, there would be no light and warmth.
庄稼不能生长，人类和动物也没法活下去。于是，羿留下了最后一个太阳。从此，太阳每天从东方升起，到西方落下，土地渐渐滋润起来，花草树木渐渐繁茂起来。
Crops cannot grow, and humans and animals cannot survive. So, he left the last sun. From then on, the sun rose from the east and set in the west every day. The land gradually becomes moist, and the flowers, plants and trees gradually become luxuriant.
江河奔腾欢畅，大地上重新现出了勃勃生机。
The rivers were roaring and singing, and the earth was